Today I made two viewfinders using the instructions by Betty Edwards in her book, the 4th edition, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And in the 4th edition, the instructions were on page 14. There's basically 5 steps. First is to get the paper, which she suggests a black construction or thin cardboard. I only had one sheet of black, so I use a black and then a maroon. Then also I have the picture there because it has glass in it. You also need the glass, some clips, a ruler and scissors, and then a marker for writing on the glass, and she says a wet cloth to wipe it with. I have a dry erase marker, so I used that and a dry cloth. So here I'm just measuring. She wants you to measure out 2 8x10 sheets of black paper. So I'm just going to cut them out. And like I said, I only had one sheet of black paper, so I used maroon. I think the main thing is that they need to be dark. Hopefully they don't have to be black, but at least they're not white. And then the next step, after we cut out the 2 pieces, which will be the same size as our picture plane, which is our glass that we need, she wants us to put an X from each corner. And then she wants us to draw on one of the papers vertical. Here's what she says: on one piece, draw vertical and horizontal lines 2 inches from the edge, again connecting the lines at points on the diagonals. Cut out the inner rectangle. This is your small viewfinder. And then on the second, this is step number 5, on the second piece, draw vertical and horizontal lines from the edge, connecting the lines on the points at the diagonals, forming a new inner rectangle. Using your scissors, cut out the inner rectangle. This is your large viewfinder. So I was confused because she said measure from the edge, and I was thinking, well, I have to measure from the X because it's a rectangle, it's not a square, it's not going to line up. But I'm like, well, maybe since she said the edge, I don't know my geometry and I need to literally measure from the edges, so instead of from the diagonal. So I tried both and realized that it has to be measured from the diagonal. So 2 inches from the corner is, I guess, a better way to say it as far as my comprehension. That makes more sense to me. So so that's why one of these has so many lines. I was just trying to figure out if I did it right or not. And so I'm a little rusty at this, but I eventually figured it out. Here I am thinking about what I want to make sure I cut right. You know, they say measure twice, cut once in sewing, and I would probably suggest that for this project. Yeah, so here I'm seeing just what I told you. I'm realizing that it is a measurement from the diagonal. Yep, and I actually just measured the illustration in the book to make sure. Alright, so you kind of want a heavier paper, but not too thick to cut through with scissors. Alright, there is my small viewfinder. I was also a little bit kind of confused or like not confident because in the illustration her small viewfinder has a much, well, both of them have a thicker, the illustration makes, of course the illustration is much smaller, but the proportions are different. It shows that the paper is much thicker on both of these viewfinders papers. in the illustration. So I was also concerned that I was not cutting it right. But like I said, yeah, I tried measuring both ways, and the only way you can get them to connect is to measure them from the corners, because it's not a square. I was actually thinking today how the sciences can be helpful in art. All right, and it didn't say to fold them, but it's just much easier for me. Hopefully they will, over time, you know, maybe if I store them flat in a folder or something, they will learn to lay flat again. All right, so here's my viewfinders. So now I need to get my glass, and here's my dry erase and my marker. I use a towel and a dry erase. So someone gave us this picture of our ranch after we had let them go hunting on the ranch or something like that. I don't know what, they were fishing or something up there. So I thought, well, we could just use the glass from it, but I can't get it out. It looks like they had this cut, and it's very roughly cut, and it's very thin glass, and I'm afraid I'm going to break it. And also I can see that the edges are quite sharp, like they hadn't been sanded down. So I'm afraid I'm actually going to either cut myself or break it. So after playing with this one for a little bit, so maybe this is something to make kind of, if you're just going to get one out of a picture frame, a nicer picture frame that has removable glass is better. This is like $100 frame with real leather, woven leather, and I mean, actually I'm very impressed. It has rounded edges and very smooth and finely sanded all the way around. So this will be the one I use for my picture plane when I do this project. I'm just cleaning it off. It's been sitting, it was out on display, so make sure it's nice and clean. All right, now it's time to clip the, just use some, I don't know what you call these, binder clips maybe. These are the smaller ones. So just clip it to hold it down. You could probably use masking tape, you know, just improvise. You get the main idea. The only other thing now is I'm testing the marker. I want to test it on my cheaper frame before I do it on my $100 glass. Make sure that it's gonna work, and it does. So I'm gonna show you how I'm just going to put the X that was on our diagonal on our picture plane and demonstrate its usefulness to you. And also you can see here how easy it is to wipe off with a dry erase marker. And I got this dry erase marker at Costco with a dry erase board. The whole thing for like $20, and it has a whole bunch of markers. And I need to hang it on my wall after I get new drywall on the wall that I'm going to put it on. But that's another story for another day. All right, I'm really excited at this point with the finished project. So here we have some scissors. I'm just going to play around with so you can see how maybe it can be used. So I'm actually gonna just try to trace, yeah, just trace it and see how easy that is. So next, the next exercise I do for sketching will be next Wednesday.